My name's Dylan.
Dylan, all right, Dylan. So what are you doing out here today? What's going on?
Well, tonight we're having a band concert, and at 6:30 we're having a heritage program at Smitha Middle. And right now I'm giving out flyers for Smitha's Middle School first annual blockbuster. And we're gonna have things like concessions. We're gonna be selling shirts, wristbands. We're gonna have games for the kids and face painting. So if you want, come out and enjoy the fun. It's Saturday, April 23rd at 11 through 3 p.m.
All right. So what are you expecting on tonight to go down?
Tonight, since band is a really big thing here at the school, so I think that we're gonna have a really good show out. And then the heritage thing, a lot of people like to come and enjoy the times with us. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Gonna have a
all right. So I'll ask you one last question. So when you hear the word heritage, Black heritage, what comes to mind?
Black heritage, I think of gathering together and like having joy around, for having joy and being thankful for what us African Americans have today, like education and the rights we have.
Nice. And where'd you learn that from?
This amazing school.
You learned from the school?
Smitha.
Wow, that's awesome. Have you learned any of this at home too?
Yes.
Nice. So it's very good to know that you're one of the many few kids that are actually in touch with their heritage, and that's an awesome thing. I'll be one of the speakers on tonight. Actually, I'll be the last person speaking on tonight. And hopefully I can give something compelling to you so that way you can go home and like, wow, that was really good. So I'm gonna do my best. But I'm gonna need you to come back after everything is over with and let me know what you think, all right?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for this quick video.
You're welcome.
It was down, dab. And I'll see you again when I come back in. Oh, dab, you crazy. All right. So what's your name? Zori, how you doing, Zori?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Fine. Can you tell everybody what's going on tonight? What's going on tonight?
Today we're having a little thing called band concert, and we're having a band concert about the kids, the 6th graders. So.
And after band, what's going on? I heard there was some kind of heritage thing going on.
I don't know. You tell me.
Oh, you didn't know? Yeah, and they're having a nice little speech and guest speaker and everything that's going on. So I'm just capturing the moment while it's going on.
Will this be like in a yearbook?
No, in the auditorium.
You gonna show this to them?
No. This is going to be on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well, shout me out. My Instagram is. Oh yeah, my name is Zori. Have a good day. Bless
Now, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
All right. When you think about Black heritage, what comes to mind?
Hair.
Hair? Ah,
Beauty
that's
is.
really good. Oh, okay.
Black don't crack.
Hey, I hear that.
So now let's get ready for our special guest for the evening, who has decided to take his time to come out and join us this evening to give us a little details about a little bit of Black history. As we know, this is Black History Month, and I thought this would be something different for us to talk about. He's going to come with some new information and some detailed, in-depth information about Black History Month. He is also a computer repair small business owner and a ministry organization leader, Kingdom Harbor Ministries. Teach and give lectures on various subject matters such as Hebrew Israelite ideology, biblical textual criticism, language and hermeneutics. This is the first time I've ever heard that word before. I guess you learn something every day. Learn something new every day. And I also have put in abbreviations so you guys, but this was very deep to have this word put out. So I put a definition so you can kind of know what it is that he's talking about. You can read that on your own. It's on the on our program. But if he's ancient, he deals with ancient Egyptian and Levantine history, okay? Community activism, contract law and debt liquidation, and last but not least, Black cultural and social economics. On behalf of Smitha PTSA, we would like to give a warm welcome to our guests.
So while I'm doing this, I'm gonna ask you a quick question, all right? Anybody can answer. Children, y'all can answer. Adults, y'all can answer. All right? Can anybody tell me what comes to mind when you think about Africa? Anybody? Jungle. Okay, what else? Huh? Safari. Okay, anything else? Somebody said tribes? Wow, that was good. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Say it loud, what? You guys are good, man, very good. All right, now, this is not a National Geographic lecture, so I'm not gonna go too much on the jungle and the safari. But what I will go in is some detail and some information that I definitely want you guys to know about. Now, does anybody in here know about the transatlantic slave trade? Anybody in here know about it? Raise your hand. Well, I got some kids raising their hands. Okay. Anybody else? You do? All right. Now let me ask a very interesting question to any of the brilliant thinkers in here. And I think, again, the kids are beating the adults. So far, it's 3-0. Okay, all right. So, question I want to ask is, what happened in West Africa before the transatlantic slave trade? Does anybody know? What were the people doing? Can anybody answer that question? Anybody? Come on, I need to answer from somebody. I see this young little girl raise her hand back there. Yes. Oh no. Anybody else? Because if not, I'll just get started. Nobody else? Tribes, what else? What you say? Trade. Very interesting. Okay, trade, that's very good. Tribes, trade, what else? Go ahead. Natural resources. Wow, that's amazing. Okay. Can I get one or two more answers? You right there, yes. Water. Interesting. All right, last answer. Anybody want a last answer? Yes. Zebras, okay, yeah, well, the safari, I got you. All right. I see the kids love animals. A lot of y'all must be watching National Geographic or the Discovery Channel. Who in here watches Discovery Junior? Who in here watches the National Geographic Channel? All right, cool. All right, so let me get started. How much time do I have? What time? 7:50? Oh, I got an hour. Okay, cool. All right, I don't think I'm gonna need that long, but it's cool. All right, so the name of this is called Africa. Okay, Beyond the Slave Ships, Divine Prospect, that's an alias to go by, but y'all can call me Ron Shields, that's fine. And let me see if this works for long distance. Let me see. It does work long distance. All right. Wow, nobody's over there by the computer. Can I get somebody staying by the computer just in case this is not working? Anybody? Yeah, I think somebody's going back there right now.
Anybody?
All right, yes, so you just stay right there for me. If I need you, I'll signal you, wave you, okay? Now, what I want you to do, actually, can you skip past this slide? I'll probably come back to it. I'm probably not even gonna need it. Yeah, there you go. Skip past that slide. All right. Now, can you click on this black image here and turn the volume up, please? Turn the volume up all the way. All right. Actually, you can pause it. Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. Previous slide. Okay, maybe I'm gonna have to do it. Okay, go back. Okay, play this slide. I think this is the one I want. Yes, all right. Turn that volume up if you don't mind, DJ.
It said centers of learning that were attended by people all around the world. Oh, what's that R&B places that stuck out? Valley Sunday, I'm talking about, no doubt. There were many more you could have scored. What you here for? Limited time to take the tour, so let's go. Ghana is the first stop, land of the gold that they sold non-stop. Traded for stone, all along the desert. Made a profit that was too hard to even measure. They came down on aid for weapons and tools. Introduced the Arabs, camels for use. Then soon he had a Giza, down the room island. To control the Ghana, then to go trade, get them out. Expanding the empire, taking our height to the future. Then came the richest ruler ever, Mansa Musa. He had more gold than we could count. Took the pilgrimage to Mecca, we fronted as well. Can't forget the many Islamists finished as well. Timbuktu, they guys, what I'm talking about. Places of trade, schools of higher money. But times are turning, Sonny Ali came to seize when he hit the sea. Timbuktu, engine, they became his. Expanded the nation, that's why I call Squid big. Come walk with me, let's walk in their shoes. Where it comes from great, but you gotta be dudes. No students, cause you wanna make a shit, let me crack, but we trying to get your mind intact, but not.
All right. Now, that was just a brief little video. You can go to the next slide. All right. Now, the video, for some reason, the audio didn't come through that well. But from the imagery that you've seen on there, is anybody going to give me some feedback on what you just saw? If you can recall anything that they were saying. Yes?
This guy had a lot of gold.
Guy had a lot of gold. Very good. Do you remember his name? No? All right. Okay, somebody said it over here. We're going to get to that. All right. Any other imagery came to mind while you were watching that? Somebody said trade earlier, I believe. Did you see an image of trade up there? Yes? Yes, you did. Okay, anything else comes to mind after watching that quick clip? Yes? They can rap. Yes, they can rap. By the way, that was called Meltrek. That's the name of the cartoon series. You can get it from, you just type in Meltrek on YouTube or Google. Dr. Ma'at was the individual. She's responsible for actually that production and everything like that. So if you guys want to go back at home, purchase it, or look it up online, this is a great way for you to get familiarized with West Africa. Now, next question. Well, not next question, but next comment. Yes? Tools. Trade, tools, and gold. That's what you said, right? Trade, tools, and gold. So what this video was showing you was the 3 great West African kingdoms that was in establishment before the transatlantic slave trade. Transatlantic slave trade was an economic interest, or people were going there because they wanted to come and develop the United States. So there was a lot of resources in the United States, and they needed human resources in order to do so, all right? But before any of that was occurring, there was a whole entire kingdom, and kingdoms, plural, that was going on. We had Ghana, we had Mali, and we had what's called the Songhai Empire. And what you're seeing here was various things that was taking place before the interruption of the transatlantic slave trade. All right? So, let's move to the next video. I'm going to skip this video. Move to the next video. Next slide. All right, next slide. All right. Now, this is not coming in too clear. Okay, I'm probably not going to be able to read all of this. But pretty much what this is a little clip that I got. And what I wanted to do was read you generally what was going on in regards to the state of West Africa before the transatlantic slave trade. All right? So, when we read here, it says, many Europeans thought that Africa's history was not important. They argued that Africans were inferior and that they used this to help justify certain things in slavery. However, the reality was very different. A study of African history shows that Africa was by no means inferior. As you can see below, the people who were there, who were a result of the transatlantic slave trade, were engineers, they were technologically advanced, they were doing trade, etc. That's what we see there. It says Egypt was the first of many great African civilizations. It lasted 1,000 years and achieved many magnificent and incredible things in the fields of science, mathematics, medicine, technology, and the arts. Egyptian civilization was already 2,000 years old by the time the city of Rome was built. In West Africa, the Kingdom of Ghana was a vast empire, that means huge, that spread across an area of the size of Western Europe between the 9th and 13th centuries. It traded in gold, that's what I heard, salt, and copper. It was like a medieval European empire with a collection of powerful local rulers controlled by one king or emperor. Ghana was highly advanced and prosperous. It is said that the Ghanaian ruler had an army of 200,000 men. That's a lot of soldiers that they had, all right? It says the kingdoms of Benin and Ife were led by the Yoruba people and sprung up between the 11th and 12th centuries. The life of the Ife civilization goes back as far as 500 BCE, and its people made objects from bronze, brass, copper, wood, ivory, etc. Again, these are all items for trade. So trade is a barter system. So if I have a nice pair of sneakers and you have a nice jacket, and I'm making all of these sneakers, you're making all of these jackets, and I come to you one day and say, hey, you know what? I would like your jacket. Those jackets you're making are very nice. This is before they used the currency. And you would say, well, I see that you make some nice sneakers. So what happened was, I would go to you and offer you a pair of sneakers in your size, and you would offer me a jacket in your size. It's called a transaction. That was one way of how trade was being bartered. But what happened is one day, if you make jackets and I have sneakers and I come to you and ask you for a jacket and you don't want no sneakers, then I have to find some way to get you what you want so I can get what I want. So you know what they do? They make currency, money. The first currency of money is made out of silver and gold. They make coins. So that silver and gold was always valuable because it had intrinsic value. That means that when you look at gold, gold doesn't rust. Gold stays around for millions of ages, and you can make jewelry out of gold and various other things. So now what we do is that we have an economy where we circulate the gold, and when you circulate the gold in the economy, now I can come to you with a piece of gold or silver, and I can get that jacket in the event that you don't want my sneakers. So we had many people that knew about the natural resources that was there in West Africa and decided they want to come and trade. All right, you follow me? Y'all follow me? All right, thank you. Kids is always going to follow. They pick this stuff up. All right? So it says here, from the 13th to 15th century, the kingdom of Mali spread across much of West and Northeast Africa. At its largest, the kingdom was 2,000 kilometers wide, and there was an organized trading system with gold dust and agricultural produce being exported north. So gold dust is what they would use. Again, you would take gold and you would grind it up to fine pieces, and you can use it for various different purposes. And also agriculture. Agriculture has to do with you controlling how plants grow. So you can grow food, you can grow herbs, you can grow fruit trees, vegetables, etc. So now we had a kingdom of West Africa that were doing all of these amounts of trade. So this is going to bring people from various parts of the world coming by and say, hey, we want to get in on this trade. Are you following me? Yes? All right. So it says being exported north. Mali reaches height in the 14th century, all right? Between 1450 and 1550, the Songhai Empire, the Third Empire, grew very powerful and prosperous. It had a well-organized system of government. Government, anybody knows what the government is? Raise your hand, anybody? Government? Adults, you can answer too. Don't be shy. Oh, I got it. Okay, what's the government? Government, what is the government? No? Okay, anybody else? Government? Nobody? Does anybody in here vote? Any adults? Do you guys vote? Yeah. Somebody said yes. Okay, so the person that says yes, why are you voting? For rights to govern? To make choices. Okay, so what you do with voting is you put politicians in office, and you put them in office so that way they can make changes based on what your needs are. Okay? Everybody knows who the president is, right? Raise your hand. Who knows who the president is? President. Now back then in West Africa, they had the emperor. Anybody read the book The Emperor's New Clothes? That might be a little too old for some of the kids in here. How many adults remember that book? All right? So an emperor had almost the same position as the president. So they had their own type of president back there that was governing or ruling the people, leading them, directing them. He was in charge of their trade, what they import and export. That is what they exchange, like what I told you about earlier. He was in charge of making tools. They made tools to hunt. They made tools to go to war, etc. He was also responsible for the upliftment of the people and making sure that the tribal and the family and everything were all in sync and everything worked together. That was the emperor's job. So we started first with the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire. West Africa was the Songhai Empire. All right, so we're going to move forward. All right, the Southerland Empire grew very powerful and prosperous. They had a well-organized system of government, developed currency, remember the silver and gold coins that I told you guys about? And it imported fabrics from Europe. Timbuktu became one of the most important places in the world. Timbuktu was a very great, prosperous city. Think about New York City. Anybody here know where New York City is? Raise your hand. New York City, it was like the New York City of 300, 400, 500, 600 years ago. All right? So a whole bunch of trade was taking place. A whole bunch of people were coming to learn. They had their own libraries back then. They had their own scholars back then, their own mathematicians, their own alchemists, their own chemists. All these individuals were doing all these things in West Africa before the slave trade. How many of y'all knew about that? Almost nobody. But now you have something to go back and research, because this is where history starts. All right? So I'm going to continue to read. It says, Timbuktu became one of the most important places in the world. Libraries and universities and libraries, and even schools like this were built, and it became the meeting place for poets. How many people know about poetry? I know some of the kids in here, you're probably in a poetry class, right? They had poetry back then in 1450, 1550. We're in 2016, so over 500, 600 years ago, in West Africa, we had a place called Timbuktu where all the poets would come and exchange poetry. Interesting, right? I wish I had one for you. I would have put it up here, but I didn't know how much time I had. But all right. So it says here, for poets, scholars, and artists from other parts of Africa and the Middle East. Then it says forms of slavery existed in Africa before Europeans arrived. Some countries in the African continent had their own system of slavery. People were enslaved as punishment for a crime, payment for a debt, or as a prisoner of war. However, African slavery was different from what was to come later. Most enslaved people were captured in battle. That's what's called prisoners of war. So two different tribes that was mentioned earlier. You're fighting. Whoever's the losing tribe has to work for the winning tribe. That's how that worked. In some kingdoms, temporary slavery was a punishment for crimes. Just like when you commit a crime today, you go to jail for a little bit of time and come back. That's designed to reform you, and so you can come back into society and be a regular student. And nobody in here ever want to encourage any little kids in here to do anything bad so you get arrested and go to jail. That's not where you want to be. All right? That's very, very important. All right? It says in some cases, enslaved people could work to buy their freedoms. So that means that if I'm enslaved or I'm working for somebody or a form of indentured servitude, if I work over a certain amount of years and I make a certain amount of income for the person who's the slave master, I can purchase or redeem myself from being a slave. Also, children of enslaved people did not automatically become slaves. So just because somebody was working for a slave master and they had a child, that child's status was not affected based on what the parent was doing. So the kids would not be affected. Again, this is history that a lot of people are not aware of. But I just want to show a little bit tidbits so you guys go back and do your research, all right? Next slide. Right. So you right here, where's my friend at? He left? Oh man, okay. So he said something about gold, and this is connected to natural resources. What is a natural resource? Anybody know what a natural resource is? Yes. Huh? Yes. And that's, oh, go ahead. Yes. Something you use over again that you get directly from the earth. So it's not made in a factory, it's not made in a processing plant, it's not made in a lab. It's resource that you get from the earth. What is the greatest natural resource? Somebody said it earlier. Water. What is the, oh, say it again? Water. Water is the greatest natural resource because almost every living thing on this planet needs water. But not only water, you have iron, you have gold, you have copper, you have silver. These are all the metals that we use in all the technology that we have here today. But some elements of even the components of your cell phone. Who has a cell phone in here? Somebody raise your cell phone up. I don't know if any of you have been to a concert before. Oh, you did? Did you know that there are valuable resources in your cell phone that you can only get from Africa and nowhere else? Do some research when you go home and look that up. Without the natural resources in Africa, you wouldn't have cell phones. That's how important this is, all right? But, all right, so what I want to show you here is that my friend, he left, but he mentioned somebody that had a lot of gold. So I'm going to show you how some of the people in West Africa were living, the emperors, remember the president I told you about? How were they living before the pause happened in the transatlantic slave trade? Well, we're going to go ahead and see this video from TED, T-E-D, education. I don't know if you guys know anything about TED. If you don't, I advise everybody to go back and look this up because they have very great informational videos. All right, so my friend back there, can you please play the videotape?
If someone asked you who the richest people in history were, who would you name? Perhaps a billionaire banker or corporate mogul like Bill Gates or John D. Rockefeller. How about African King Musa Kita I? Ruling the Mali Empire in the 14th century CE, Mansa Musa, or the King of Kings, amassed a fortune that possibly made him one of the wealthiest people who ever lived. But his vast wealth was only one piece of his rich legacy. When Mansa Musa came to power in 1312, much of Europe was racked by famine and civil wars. But many African kingdoms and the Islamic world were flourishing, and Mansa Musa played a great role in bringing the fruits of this flourishing to his own realm. By strategically annexing the city of Timbuktu and re-establishing power over the city of Gao, he gained control over important trade routes between the Mediterranean and the West African coast, continuing a period of expansion which dramatically increased Mali's size. The territory of the Mali Empire was rich in natural resources, such as gold and salt. The world first witnessed the extent of Mansa Musa's wealth in 1324, when he took his pilgrimage to Mecca. Not one to travel on a budget, he brought a caravan stretching as far as the eye could see. Accounts of this journey are mostly based on an oral testimony and differing written records, so it's difficult to determine the exact details. But what most agree on is the extravagant scale of the excursion. Chroniclers describe an entourage of tens of thousands of soldiers, civilians, and slaves, 500 heralds, bearing gold staffs and dressed in fine silks, and many camels and horses bearing an abundance of gold bars. Stopping in cities such as Cairo, Mansa Musa is said to have spent massive quantities of gold, giving to the poor, buying souvenirs, and even having mosques built along the way. In fact, his spending may have destabilized the regional economy, causing mass inflation. This journey reportedly took over a year, and by the time Mansa Musa returned, tales of his amazing wealth had spread to the ports of the Mediterranean. Mali and its king were elevated to near legendary status, cemented by their inclusion on the 1375 Catalan Atlas. One of the most important world maps of medieval Europe, it depicted the king holding a scepter and a gleaming gold nugget. Mansa Musa had literally put his empire and himself on the map. But material riches weren't the king's only concern. As a devout Muslim, he took a particular interest in Timbuktu, already a center of religion and learning prior to its annexation. Upon returning from his pilgrimage, he had the great Jumurabera Mosque built there with the help of an Andalusian architect. He also established a major university, further elevating the city's reputation and attracting scholars and students from all over the Islamic world. Under Mansa Musa, the empire became urbanized, with schools and mosques in hundreds of densely populated towns. The king's rich legacy persisted for generations, and to this day, there are mausoleums, libraries, and mosques that stand as a testament to this golden age of Mali's history.
All right. Okay, so next slide. And can I get one light facing here? Is that possible? Because I'm not sure what's getting caught on camera. One light, or a light pointed on me. Can somebody point a light on me? Let's see. Any, mini, miny, mo. Keep going. Catch a tiger by the toe. Y'all don't know this? If he hollers, let him go. What? Oh, come on, y'all. All right, cool. All right. So, now that we watched that video of Mansa Musa, does anybody have any feedback? First of all, how many people knew about Mansa Musa? Raise your hand. One person. Okay, so kids, I know a lot of y'all are on the internet, y'all do your research. I want you to go back home, if it's okay with your parents, and look up Mansa Musa from the Empire of Mali. You're gonna learn a lot of history of West Africa, all right? So, Anybody can tell me anything that they got from watching that quick flip. Tell me something about Mansa Musa. Yes? Very rich. He was one of the richest people that ever lived on the planet. Did y'all know that?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
How you know that? Oh, did you watch? You watched what I showed you earlier, right? Ah, see, he's smart right there. Okay, what's your name?
PJ.
PJ. All right, my man PJ. All right, yes.
He put himself on the map in his kingdom.
Yes, there you go. So we have what's called a cartographer. Cartographer is somebody that goes around that draws maps. All right, so when they went and they experienced Mansa Musa and his kingdom in West Africa and Mali, they said, wow, this guy has a lot of money, so we have to sit here and actually place him on the map. And the towns he built, everything he built on the map. Now, what is one other thing that he built? If anybody, yes? Oh, huh? Well, yes, he had a lot of gold. That's what made him very, very rich. Thank you for that, sir. Yes? University, yes. Oh man, I gotta give you a dab on it. Come on, give me some dabs on that. Good job. All right. So he built a university. A university. Now, how many people in here know what a university is? Raise your hand.
I go to one.
You go to one. All right. and all the children in here as well. If you don't know what a university is, your mother and your father are saving up a lot of money to put you in there. So if I was you guys, I'll go back and research to see what a university is. Got it? All right, cool. So Mansa Musa was so rich that he made a commute or a travel from West Africa all the way to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And this took 1 year. They didn't have airplanes back then. So everybody traveled on foot or by camel. Imagine that. Imagine you going from here to California on foot or on camel. How long do you think that'll take you guys in here?
A year.
A year. There you go. Almost a year. Same thing back then. That's how far he traveled. But as he was traveling, he had so much gold, he was just giving it away. And then he started to buy souvenirs. What's a souvenir? How many of y'all travel in here? What's a souvenir? That you get from where? Another place? Country? Or if you go to like Disney World or something like that, right? How many of y'all been to Disney World in here? I just came back from Orlando, and Orlando's popping. That's slang for saying it's really nice, all right? So, yes, so the important thing is when we're looking at Mansa Musa is that he built universities, he commuted, he traveled, and as he went, he would buy souvenirs. So any of the other tribes and other countries that he would go through, he would buy souvenirs from those places. And he had so much money, he was giving away to the poor. Did you know that? How many of y'all give to the poor here? Raise your hand. I encourage every one of you to do that because you get a feeling inside as an incentive or reward once you give to somebody that does not have as much as you. And I encourage everybody to do that. We can circulate that kind of love. Random acts of kindness. And if you do that, it will come back to you. All right? So, Mansa Musa, when he went on his trip, he gave out so much gold to those who were poor, those who needed it. He came back with so many souvenirs. And when he came back, he built up what's called Timbuktu, which is a city for all the scholars and the poets and the mathematicians. And the cartographers, which were the map makers, came and they drew a map and they put him on the map. He was so influential that he caused major change in West Africa and Mali. So I want you guys to go back and look up Mansa Musa and the Kingdom of Mali. That was the greatness of Africans before the transatlantic slave trade. All right? Next slide. Right. So now we had a situation where a lot of that greatness was interrupted, and because of the economic interests of the Europeans, who took up human resources and brought them over here to the Americas to work on the plantations, work on the farms, so that way they can develop this great country. There was a parenthetical or a pause between the greatness of West Africa and then what was in the individuals or the human resources that was taken from West Africa and brought over here to America. So we had a situation where we had slavery, right? And people were put to labor against their own will. And that was done so that way they can build up the South and industry here in America. But then after a while, we had what's called the Emancipation Proclamation or the Civil War, where all the slaves were made free. Now, after the slaves were made free, after they did all those great things in West Africa, what do you think that these individuals did after slavery? Can anybody tell me? Yes.
After that happened, whites hate blacks.
Wow. I wouldn't say it like that, but that was pretty direct. But what I'm saying is, the blacks, after they were released from slavery, they had so many skills that was inherited in their DNA from the greatness they did in West Africa before the slave trade. So what do you think they did with that intellectual prowess or their great mind? What do you think they did with those great minds once they was let free to do their own free will? What do you think they did with those great minds? Anybody else? This is my VIP right here, but I want somebody else to answer this question. Yes? You did what? Say again? Universities. They built universities. Very good. Anything else? Does anybody know what an invention is?
All their smart kids on building stuff.
There you go, building stuff. Inventors. They took the greatness of their inherent DNA, what they received from their ancestors in West Africa, and they propelled it forward to create inventions to further the economy and the technological advance of the United States. So they didn't just sit on their behinds and they were idle. They actually went and they built things because they had this in their DNA. That was the greatness that was inside of them. Can you play this next clip, please? And dim the light real quick before you play the clip.
The ABCs of Black Inventors, a children's guide. Listen and learn, every boy and girl, what Black inventors have shared with the world. A. Andrew Beard made connecting trains easy. The J coupler used big hooks that were greasy. B. Bessie Blount practiced science with heart. Her invention helped soldiers to get a fresh start. C. Charles Drew's work should make us give thanks. His knowledge and research created blood banks. D. Donald Cotton should be mentioned, of course. He traveled the world for an energy source. E. Elijah McCoy made us things we can use. When you hear his name, it is always good news. F. Folding beds can be slept on daily, thanks to the work of L.C. Bailey. G. Granville Woods made the telegraph plane, so railroad conductors could talk train to train. H. Henry Blair helped farmers meet their needs by inventing a machine for planting seeds. I. Ice cream is a treat that everyone savors because Augustus Jackson invented so many flavors. J. Jane Cook Wright studied treatments for cancer. She researched for years to find an answer. K. Kevin Woolfolk liked to watch animals run. His workout wheel lets hamsters have fun. L. Lewis Latimer improved the electric light. And now we can see clearly, even at night. M. Madam C.J. Walker made many women smile. Her products allowed them to comb hair with style. N. Newman Marshman did not see any hype. With Lee Burridge, he built a machine used to type. O. Ozzie Williams' ideas will never be tossed, since his radar helped people find planes that were lost. P. Percy Julian practiced science to the letter and made many products that make us feel better. Q. Quilting frames had many uses because Thomas Elkins made no excuses. R. Robert Allen helped us track nickels and dimes. His coin counting tube came right on time. S. Sarah Boone loves style, and it certainly shows. Because of her, we can iron our clothes. T. Thomas Jennings was the first of this race to receive a patent and set the pace. Ultraviolet cameras were proving their worth since George Carruthers found ways to look at the earth. Virgil Trice's deeds stand tall like a tower. He spent many years studying nuclear power. William Purvis wanted us to write clearly. His fountain pen helps and we thank him dearly. X-ray machines could be moved space to space because Frederick Jones had a vision in place. Y. Yarn can be tangled and bend like a folder, so Julia Hammonds designed a yarn holder. Z. Zirconia became a beautiful sight when Jonathan Smith made it nice and bright. The end.
All right. That's a clap. That's fine. All right. Next slide. All right. Now, what did you guys learn from that video?
Jason created ice cream.
Yes, ice cream. All right. Anybody else? Yes. A lot of ideas in mind. Okay. Anybody else? Yes. You right there. C.J. Walker made hair products for women, right? Okay, anybody else? Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Someone invented the hamster wheel.
Hamster wheel. Okay, good. We also had folding beds. Did y'all see folding beds in there? Ironing board. We had an ironing board in there. Conductor for communication between trains. Okay. Anybody heard of Carver, Mr. Carver before? Okay. We had a whole host of inventions that all of these people of African descent from West Africa, when they were freed and liberated after slavery, they went to work and made all of these great inventions. So what I do is that I encourage you guys to go back home. You can type this up, the ABCs of Black inventors, or just do your research on Black inventions. You'll see all the great works that those of African descent or Black people after slavery, what they contributed to society. They helped make this nation great. And I want you guys to go back and research that, okay? All right, next slide. All right, so we're gonna go over a quick overview, and then we're gonna jump right to the end, because I'm almost done, all right? So, quick overview, all right? All right. First, we had the great empire in West Africa, and a lot of the greatness that occurred there was disrupted based on the European economic interest to get human resources to help build the Americas. So that resulted in what's called the transatlantic slave trade, all right? And slavery. Now, after various hundreds of years of that process going on, we have what's called the Civil War, where the North and South were fighting for the liberation of these slaves, all right, of African descent. That means they came from Africa, or they had ancestors, or great-great-great-great-grandmother, grandfather that came from West Africa, where we saw Mansa Musa come from, one of the richest men on the planet, all right? So the Civil War came, and after the Civil War, we had the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation was a proclamation that came from the president that said all of the people who were being subjugated to slavery are now free. All right? So now that they're free, what are they going to do? Let's go to the next. We had abolition, which was abolition happened after the Civil War, which released the slaves. Keep going. Then we had the Reconstruction period, where people were trying to figure out, what are we going to do now? Once we were slaves, now we're free. Next. What they started to do was get involved in Black inventions. They created their own communities, and how many people in here heard of Black Wall Street? Black Wall Street was one of the great cities that were created, but a lot of these Black inventors, and not just Black inventors, doctors and lawyers, that was the greatness of these people of African descent after slavery, okay? They put their great, powerful minds together, and they did things to further contribute not just to society, but also to the community. Community is like your neighborhood, where you guys live. all right? Your next door neighbor, your friend down the street, all right? Then we have what's called the civil rights movement, which gave momentum for them to continue to push for equal rights, all right? And then, next, we have present day. Our present day situation, what leads up to the last part, and that is autonomy. So in order for those of us in here of African descent, or anybody in here that learned anything from what you learned today, the most powerful and important thing you can do to continue on this legacy is to be autonomous. What does autonomous mean? Anybody in here watch Transformers? Who watches Transformers in here? Raise your hand. That's one person. None of the 2, 3. Okay, some adults. I know some of you watched the Transformers movie. All right, you did? Okay. So who are the Autobots? Name me an Autobot. Optimus Prime. All right, give me another one. Bumblebee. Bumblebee. Well, Megatron was the Decepticons. Bumblebee. All right. So the word auto is when you're able to do something for yourself. And we saw that the Transformers were able to turn back and forth from mighty robots to cars and planes and tanks all by themselves. So what autonomy is encouraging you guys to make your own inventions when you get older. It's encouraging you guys to buy your own land when you get older, to build your own house when you get older. Guess what? Make your own gardens. Plant your own food. So the best way to continue on the legacy of greatness is for you to operate autonomously or by yourself and to better your community. Autonomy is the most important thing that we can do, especially those of African descent, in order for us to continue on this legacy of greatness. So what is evidence of the greatness going forward? So we saw what happened in West Africa. We saw what happened after slavery. We saw the inventions. But what do you think is going to propel all of this stuff forward? I touched on it not too long ago. Yes?
What you're going to do, you're going to make inventions too?
Inventions? Yes. Way more inventions. But the greatness of the future lies in, next slide, the autonomous you guys. You guys are the key to the future. And I know you probably heard that cliche before, but after you go back and research all the greatness that I just showed you, you guys also possess all of the capabilities, the skills, the strength, the boldness, the courage to make things great, not just for society as a whole, but for your own communities. You guys can continue on this great legacy autonomously by thinking first about your family and your friends and your community. Once we're able to improve those things, now the rest of society will be changed from the greatness that is in you. But it all depends on you guys. You guys gotta go back and do this research, and you do. Every time you read about something like I just showed you, you're gonna think to yourself and say, you know what, I could do something better than that. I could do something greater than that. You guys can do all these things even right now. You can even start your own businesses. I know a friend that has a young child, and this young child, they sell toys. This other friend that I have, their young child, they plant gardens and they sell seeds. This other one I know has an ant farm, and they study the ants with an ant farm. If we get more back to these natural ways of us studying nature, these natural ways of us understanding economics and how we distribute and change money and things of that nature, you guys can create anything that comes to mind. Because a lot of things that you see here that we take for granted, the screen, these speakers, these chairs, somebody first had to have an idea that was greater than somebody before them. All right? So with that being said, when we think about blacks or African Americans or those of African descent here in Americas, there's a much more richer history that a lot of times we're not taught, but you can go back and research, and the most powerful thing about learning it is for you to be autonomous and you to create and unlock the greatness that is in you to improve yourself, your family, the next generation, your community, and society as a whole. You guys can do it. All right, can I get a hurrah? Hurrah! A hurrah? Hurrah! All right, and I'm done.